You guys know that I try my best to stay out of the day-to-day political bickering and focus more on big ideas and the philosophies which are behind all the fighting. This doesn't mean I'm ignoring the issues of the moment, be it North Korea, the gun debate, or the general state of Trumpism, but focusing on why people believe what they believe is far more valuable to me than adding fuel to the fire of whatever the story of the day might be. Toss in a healthy dose of political gridlock, and we seem to have lots of people who are yelling, but very few people who are doing. There's one issue happening in American politics right now, which is a great example of the stagnation we face, but that is totally flying under the radar. Right now, dozens of countries, some of them key strategic allies, don't have U.S. ambassadors because the Senate has refused to vote on their confirmation. According to the rules of the Senate right now, the Senate needs 30 hours of debate to confirm an ambassadorship. You can imagine with all the nonsensical waste in D.C. how impossible it would be to spend 30 hours debating each of the new ambassadorships when a new administration comes in. We'd be talking about literally thousands of hours of debate for a branch of government which can't seem to agree on which flavor of yogurt should be served at the Capitol Hill commissary. Back in 2014, when the Democrats controlled the Senate, then Majority Leader Harry Reid used what is known as the nuclear option to get many Obama appointees through the Senate. In effect, Reid changed the rules so that a simple majority, rather than a 60-vote supermajority, would be enough to confirm ambassadors, federal judges, and other positions. Though I was firmly on the left at the time and I had no issue I can remember with the Obama appointees, I was against Reid using such a drastic tactic. To me, if you change the rules when you're in power, it's incredibly obvious and probably quite deserved when those same rules will be used against your team when you're not in power. You can rightly blame Republicans for not voting on the Obama appointees in 2014, just as right now you can rightly blame Democrats for not voting on Trump appointees in 2018. This is exactly why people rightfully hate the political machine in Washington. It either does nothing or it changes the rules to suit itself while usually leaving the people it's supposed to serve far behind. The Republicans, now led by Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, could use what is known as the nuclear option right now, just as Reid and the Democrats did back in 2014. For whatever reason, though, McConnell refuses to do so. Some are saying he has such an old-school affinity for the rules of the Senate that he doesn't want to stoop to what Reid did. In a certain way, this seems like a principled position, but at this point in American politics, I wonder if clinging on to the old ways while your ideological opponents chisel away at those very institutions at every opportunity makes much sense at all. Let me add another wrinkle to this story. The highest ranking ambassadorship that we now have open, Germany, has been offered to former U.S. spokesman for the UN, Richard Grenell. Richard is the longest serving UN spokesman in history, working for 4 different U.S. ambassadors. He's also served several other positions in the government, as well as worked for a few other high-level political campaigns. By every measure, he's supremely qualified, and I've seen plenty of people on both sides of the aisle that praise him as the exact type of person that we need more of in politics. Richard and I have become friends over the past few years, and I can personally tell you that he's truly a decent guy who just wants to serve his country. Oh, and there's one other piece to this. Richard happens to be gay. You may remember back in 2012, Richard was briefly a spokesman for the Romney campaign until the media decided to attack an openly gay man for daring to work for the Republican candidate Mitt Romney, thus causing Richard to step down from the campaign because he didn't want to be a distraction. Apparently, although Romney felt it was just fine to hire a gay man and Richard felt it was totally okay to work for Romney, the media just wouldn't let it be. Gay conservatives like Richard, much like black conservatives like Larry Elder or female conservatives like Nikki Haley, challenge the orthodoxy that the Democrats must own all of these groups of people. I mention Richard's sexuality not because it's important or even relevant unless you play the identity politics game as so many do. In effect, the Democrats are blocking an extremely qualified, openly gay man from serving his country. Aren't the Democrats and lefties supposed to be for gays? Isn't that part of their intersectional worldview? Immutable characteristics often trump qualifications if you subscribe to this line of thinking. Shouldn't this also mean supporting gay people whose political positions you might disagree with because you believe in their ability to think for themselves? Or perhaps the so-called tolerant side really isn't pro-gay or pro-any minority. They are actually only pro those who believe as they do. Now, obviously, you know that I don't think anyone should be confirmed because of their sexuality, nor should their sexuality matter in the least when it comes to being nominated in the first place. I just think that this particular case is interesting on so many levels. We have the gridlock of Washington with Democrats refusing to vote on Trump nominees. We have a majority leader in McConnell that refuses to use his option to confirm nominees, even though the previous Senate leader, Reid, did exactly just that. We have dozens of qualified candidates waiting to do their civic duty, and we have just as many countries waiting for our ambassadors to move there and get to work. Caught in all of this mess is a good man, Richard Grenell, who I happen to know personally, who doesn't want extra credit for being gay, but just wants to get to work. How can you make a difference in all this? Call your local senator and ask their assistant at the office why they aren't voting on these nominees. And you can also call Mitch McConnell at his D.C. office by calling 202-224-2541. Actually, I'm going to give him a call right now. Joining me today is a guy who's seen an awful lot of people get hit in the nuts, a man who's lived in a house that constantly seems to be getting fuller, and a stand-up comic whose new special, 0 to 60, is now streaming on Amazon. Bob Saget, welcome to the Rubin Report.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. You're a very smart man. I cannot keep up with you mentally. But we did have dinner, and I seem to keep up with the entrees.
Is that why you were plying me with so much alcohol during dinner? To kind of dumb me down so that, so that we could get on the level?
I wanted to see what you were like unconscious.
Yeah, we did go to...
Because that's the world we're in right now.
Yeah.
That's an opposite day kind of statement. In other words, years ago when you would say, I want to see what you're like unconscious, that would be a joke. But unfortunately, we are in a world right now where that's actually happened. Yeah. So a lot of things that are irreverent and could be considered funny are not. Yeah. And so there's this buffering that goes on before. But either way, you did not get overly inebriated, and you were more than pleasant, and we had a lovely night with both of our significant others who we both adore, and we laughed, and we had good food. Yeah. And we will do it again.
We will do it again.
And that's all I want to talk about. I don't want to talk about my career. What did we have as entrees?
Well, I believe I had the fish.
You did.
I think you had
something not as healthy.
Steak. I think it was maybe.
No, I didn't.
No, you didn't have steak. You had some kind of
chicken, something maybe.
All right, let's focus here, Saget.
So I'm here.
That's a good place to start. What you just did there. Just the state of political correctness. Let's just do a little bit on that. And then I want to do Saget 101 for this next hour.
I'm teaching that course at a community college.
Yeah? How many kids are taking that?
It doesn't matter. Whoever applies, that doesn't turn me in.
You let them all in?
Everybody comes in. Yeah. It's in a trailer.
What do you think of that you're doing this? We're live to tape, so we don't edit.
And this did not exist 4 years ago. This existed, but it didn't exist like this. I mean, you got millions of people that watch this. Yeah. This is crazy.
Well, what do you think about that? Like, you're used to doing, I mean, obviously I want to talk stand-up and everything else, but you do scripted series, you do movies, things like that, but you also do panel on talk shows, things that are sort of, they're kind of old school now. Like, that's very different than coming in here and right before we start, I said to you, we're just going to go for it. And you were like, whatever you want. I mean, I don't have to look, I can just do that and we're good.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
Or you can flip it back again.
Yeah, I better flip that.
Those are the smallest cards I've ever seen. Your interviews on microfiche.
It's just, I just write little silly things.
No, that looks all smart. Yeah. I love the fact that this exists because years ago, if you wanted to go on a show and have a one-on-one with someone, it was, you were a baby, but it was Tom Snyder.
Who would be on. Tom Snyder. I love Tom Snyder.
Oh, yeah. Forgetting that you might be a tiny bit older than a baby.
Yeah, the camera was always very close to his head.
Incredibly close. And Dan Aykroyd on Saturday Night Live in the very beginning would do an impression of it. Camera was this tight, and he would be smoking, and Tom would just talk in the camera. Yeah. Do his discourse, which is very much like a podcast is today. Like Bill Burr, a friend of mine, gets up in the morning, talks for an hour once a week. It's unbelievable to listen to. Yeah. A lot of our great podcasters, everything has changed. And in that regard, this has changed for the better. Because you get to have an articulate conversation that you can't normally have in commercial television. Because commercial television is meant to be entertaining. Yeah. Only.
I don't know what we're meant to be over here, but...
Well, interesting.
Interesting, I guess, yeah.
And my fiance Kelly turned me on to your show, and I said I really like him, and I like what he's talking about. And you had guests on, and you're able to be a diplomat which is very difficult to do when you have people with different points of view, a conservative and a liberal, which I don't understand. I don't understand any of it.
Yeah.
I just.
Well, we're going to get.
I mean,
into
I understand it, but I mean, we're mammals.
Yeah.
We're supposed to stay alive.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be nice to another mammal. We're not supposed to hunt it and kill it.
Depends which kind of mammal you are, actually.
If it's delicious.
Yeah. then you have to go for it.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just food.
Well, we're gonna dive into all that because I did notice that for you it's interesting, I think, because your stand-up is so different than your television persona between America's Funniest Home Videos and Full House.
Well, the old ones though, but then Entourage, that was kind of like a thing. But then I did a bunch of acting stuff too, and I've done Broadway work, which was. Some of it was similar to my stand-up, but I've always done something that's every 7 years there's some new incarnation that people go, who the hell is he?
Yeah, well, that's why I think it's interesting because especially with celebrities, people like to just get in, or anyone that's public, that they like to just get a kind of image of you and then just run with that forever. And you are constantly challenging that.
I refuse to be pigeonholed because it sounds like something you should not do to a pigeon. Now, see, that's the kind of joke you can still do. You can still do that because it's not a human being.
Yeah.
It's a pigeon.
Yeah.
The only people that are going to be really upset about that would be the Humane Society.
Yeah.
And they are right.
The ASPCA is all over this show. They're just.
I don't see their name anywhere anymore. I think they're out.
You think they're done?
I don't know. I think it's the ASPCA-NRA. I think they've combined so that you take care of the bird and then you fire at it. Is that going to fly well on this show?
I think it will. You know, we've got those chickens out there, and one day people always ask me, "What are you going to do when they stop laying eggs?" Are you just,
Wait a minute. Now those are chickens, but they're so beautiful. I thought they were males because they had the red Malay. What's it called?
I know you were very excited to say cock over.
I said you have 3 beautiful cocks.
But no, those are actually those are female hens that lay eggs.
And what do
I'm
you
doing
do?
this for the eggs, not just to
That's Woody Allen.
Yeah.
Which was Groucho Marx. I need the eggs.
I need the eggs, but that's the truth.
Annie Hall.
That's the truth. All right.
Go ahead. This is the problem with me. As a talk show guest, as a comedian, and as someone without a script, I free associate, and I sometimes do not stay on track. But you are so smart and linear, you are going to keep me on track, and I will do my very best to accommodate you.
And I will do my best to accommodate you. So
okay, this is fair.
Let's start at the beginning. You are born in Philadelphia.
I was.
Yeah.
In Einstein Hospital.
Einstein Hospital?
Yes, and it is still there.
Is that in honor of Albert Einstein?
It is. Huh. It is, and it's on Broad Street. And I was born there, and my dad worked for a supermarket company called Food Fair Pantry Pride Supermarkets, and he was a meat executive.
That all sounds legit.
What about your family? What background? What business were they in?
I was born in Brooklyn, grew up in Long Island, lived in Manhattan my whole life, went to college upstate New York, so I'm a true New Yorker. So we're both
You had
East
the life I
Coasters.
wish I had. I was in Philly. I lived at home during college. You had this is why you're smart, and I go out and tell a bunch of wiener jokes.
I know, but I'm going back into that now, as you know.
Yeah, you are. You're out doing stand-up.
I told you I'm going back into stand-up. You were very excited.
I'm excited. You also told me you're playing the Irvine Improv.
Yeah.
And when is that?
Oh, that wasn't even public till just now. That's great.
Is that okay to say?
That's April 8th. April 8th. My first headlining gig in 10 years.
And this is one of the nicest clubs in Los Angeles and in anywhere, really. I mean, it's like 600 people, 700 people. It looks like a spaceship. It looks like a Disney exhibit. And it's in Irvine, which is why they called it the Irvine Improv. And
I couldn't put that together. Why do they call it the Irvine Improv?
And I don't know, but they're smart people and nice people. Now, you will bring smart people because you have so many people that you will bring your audience, that's the advantage of what we do.
Yeah.
You know, whatever we do, whatever media we're on, that's who comes to see us.
That's got to be the most beautiful shift in comedy, right? Do you remember that moment when you went from like being a guy that was just, trying to get on 8th out of 10 comics at the end of the night and nobody knows who you are? Do you remember the beginning of when people were going, I'm going to see Bob Saget?
Something weird happened with me, which was I started doing stand-up when I was 17. And
What year was that?
That was 73.
Wow.
So, because I'm 104 on the freeway.
Look at that head of hair, though, for 104.
Not bad.
No. Very impressive.
But I had to do the drops. I take the thing. I take the Propecia. That's supposed
Trump's
to.
on the Propecia. He seems fine.
Oh, please don't compare me to that. That's the hair.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Mine's not a comb over.
Yeah, I know what's going to happen if we get right on Trump.
I actually, I believe. But I don't want to. I am not doing anything to bash anyone. I will not do it, even though it's possible that his comb over is from an onion in the kitchen that just snaggletooths along the ground and then crawls up his back.
Yeah. Did you see that moment when
I saw that video on the airplane?
That?
But was that done CGI? Was that done with effects? Because that didn't look possible.
It looked pretty fake. But let's
Right.
put Trump aside. I want to talk stand-up.
Yes, because
do you remember that moment when things changed?
Yeah, what happened was I came out to L.A. I had won the Student Academy Award for a documentary I made about my nephew who had his face reconstructed when he was 7. And I won this Student Academy Award for documentary, and then I went on at the Comedy Store the next night, and Mitzi, the owner of the Comedy Store, said, "You should work here." So I started getting spots right away.
Wow,
and then
that's
started.
Crazy. I mean,
then she
comics fight for that for years.
People fight, and I didn't work the door.
Wow.
And I was, I guess, likable, but strange, very strange jokes. Like my first joke was, I have the brain of a German Shepherd and the body of a 16-year-old boy, and they're both in my car, and I want you to see them. Now, it's just an odd rambling, but it symbolizes, I think it answers the question of how did he become this? Because he was that, if you're going to be third person on myself.
Yeah.
But, and then I started going on a college tour. She put me on Mitzi Shore from the Comedy Store, put me on a college tour, and I was a guitar act, just parodies, and I would sing while my guitar gently weeps, turn a valve, and water poured out of the guitar. And you could only see it in the first 10 rows, so it doesn't really play.
Didn't work for the big stadium.
Cannot play the Irvine Improv with this bit.
Yeah.
And then I was headlining right away. So in my early 20s, I'd go out on the road while I was taking 5 years of acting classes with a teacher named Daryl Hickman in LA, while I was doing improv classes at the Groundlings, while I was doing spots at the Comedy Store. I'd go out on the road and then headline and then make money. But not enough to get a career. And then I was like 8-9 years of hosting the Comedy Store in Westwood, and that was hard. It was, but I got to befriend people that I worshipped, which were Richard Pryor and Robin Williams, and David Letterman was one of my first MCs, and so I was 22 years old, and the place it's packed like it was then, kind of now.
Yeah.
Bad sentence, but in the early 80s, it was, you could not get into any room, and every single person on the lineup was like, and I was hosting a lot of the shows. So, but then everybody went off and got TV shows, and I was still at the Comedy Store hosting and thinking, this is it, I'm never going to make it. And then I got in a Richard Pryor movie, and then I got on a CBS show and a morning show.
What Pryor movie?
Critical Condition.
Oh, I've seen that.
I'm the young Dr. Jaffe who does all the jobs that are disgusting that he doesn't want to do because he's not a real doctor.
Sounds like the MC at a comedy club.
Exactly the same thing. You don't want to touch people. And I remember holding Garrett Morris from Saturday Night Live by the testicles, and Richard kept telling me to squeeze harder. And that was a reshoot. They added me to that scene.
I can see that when you talk about it, sort of, and I've had this with a couple other comics that were around at that time, there's like a real nostalgia for it. Do you remember thinking it was as special then?
Oh, it was.
Yeah, but do you remember it at the time thinking like, I'm really in on 100%. Something? Because usually people don't. Like the good old days, you only remember them as good.
Well, they weren't good old days.
Yeah.
Because, you're in a place that is, in the Comedy Store has a lot of history in it. Ciro's is the main room, and there's supposed to be ghosts in there, and Sam Kinison says he saw a quarter floating in the air of a dead mobster or something, and I believe all of it. I spent a lot of time in there. And it was struggling, you'd have people come and see you. Rodney Dangerfield was kind to me, put me on a Young Comedian special, but it was all, I was the warm-up comic for Bosom Buddies with Tom Hanks and Peter Scolari, and it was all struggling, but you need it. And I used to wait in line in New York at the Improv and catch a rising star for 10 hours. Sign the lineup sheet and wait for 10, 12 hours. And I think there's something if you come out of the dugout, if you really or the trenches, sorry, dugout's fine.
Yeah,
dugout means
right.
you're gonna bat, maybe. But if you come out of the trenches and you go through it, it's almost, guy had a heart attack in the audience. Oh, I've had that happen before. Oh, this guy's getting thrown. There's a guy's got a gun. Oh yeah, that happened to me in Cleveland. I remember that.
Yeah.
It gets to the point where you're almost a pilot on a plane. It's like, I'm ready for anything. But what you want to do is make people laugh. And that was the hardest transition for me, was to take off the guitar and to learn to be a comedian.
Yeah.
And so
what was that moment like for you?
Really hard. I had a guitar on for like 4 years. I took it off, and I bombed for a long time. I would do it. I used the club for what it was supposed to be used for, but it didn't service me. It didn't help me get a sitcom. If people saw me, they went, he's amicable, but he's not funny. And I was trying to do jokes, and a lot of them were... There was a talent coordinator for The Tonight Show. I could never get on as a comic. I got on to do panel with Johnny Carson. Thanks to Gary Shandling for putting me on the first time, and then Jay Leno. I was on once with him, but then I was on with Carson 13, 14 times, and then and always panel. But I never went on as a comedian because this talent coordinator who passed on, named Jim McCauley, who helped a lot of people's careers, except mine. But he did help me in a way. He said, "You're very funny, but your act is like a stone skipping on the water. It never really digs in." Thank you.
Wow, that's something to really take with
Kung
you.
Fu.
Yeah, wow.
Thank you, master. Take the pebble from my hand.
Yeah.
So it hurt me because I couldn't get on the damn show, but I really wasn't meant to. I mean, I hate to say those kind of words. It's not meant to be or whatever, but it was a hell of a lot better to sit there and talk a couple segments with Johnny Carson and him like me and be able to talk to a guy that you looked up to so much because he was kind of the master.
Imagine. Like that, like I'm emanating true jealousy. Whenever I hear any of you guys talk about Carson, it's like that. And
I am not even making this up because I'm not delusional. He liked me. And I still can't figure that out. But I would say something like, David Letterman had a lot of his amazing qualities. And it would respond the same way to this, because one of my patters that I would say is, "This is true." And Johnny would go, "I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's true, just tell it." And David would be the same thing. And I would go on Letterman and I would go, "This is true." He goes, "I don't care if it's true or not. Just make it funny. Just say it."
I'm blanking on the title of Bill Maher's first book, the novel that he wrote about stand-up. But the first line in it, he says something about "this is true," which is exactly what a comic says when they're about to tell you something false.
Correct.
And that's how the novel. What the hell's the name of the book? I'll get it in a second. You should know. You travel with this guy.
I should. I know him.
I saw a picture of you squeezing
We are
his boob.
depleted in reading each other's books.
Yeah.
He hasn't read mine either.
True Story is the name of the book.
Oh.
True Story.
That's a brilliant title. Also, think about this, but seriously, folks. I mean, that is the segue into your next joke.
Yeah.
Or Bob Hope. I want to tell you. So anyway, that's always good.
But these are all the tricks.
So anyway,
right?
so I'm in the car. Well, you do learn tricks.
Yeah.
And it's always, if you can kill them with kindness, or if you can fake sincerity.
Were there guys during that? Because when everyone talks about it, it's like we could literally spend the next hour with you just naming all stars, right? You could
just do that.
But were there guys? You could just name drop. You want to just name drop for the next, and it'll be very easy to make a promo.
I'll do that. Professor Irwin Corey. See, no one will know that.
Well, I know it, but yeah, but were there guys that you thought were truly
Bill Hicks,
transcendent? Yeah. So a guy like
Bill Hicks, that's transcendent.
Yeah.
That's a guy who worshipped Sam Kinison, who was a friend of mine. I got Sam his first spot at the Comedy Store. Was it in the documentary? No. Yeah. But he was an unusual thing. He was an anomaly. No one had ever seen that before. And Bill Hicks really thought about why are we here, and had a sweet philosopher in him. It was a gentle George Carlin kind of thing. Mm-hmm.
Wasn't that gentle, was it? I mean, from the stuff you probably saw a gentler version.
I did, because I I knew him, and
Yeah.
he was kind of. I knew him when he was really young.
Yeah.
You know, I met him when he was like 18 or something, or 19, and he kind of took to me, and his loss was very sad. I would have loved to have seen what he would have arrived at.
Yeah.
If he'd been, he died very young.
Because that's the type of comic we need more of, right? Especially now, like
thoughtful,
but guys that are really saying something. Like to me, there's
we got them. I mean, you know,
I'm getting back in, so maybe I'll find them all again.
Well, you can't help but reckon with Chappelle. I mean, the man is, you know,
he's awesome.
Arguably the best living stand-up. It reminds you of Richard, who was at that time the best living stand-up. Might be still. Lenny Bruce was decomposed by being arrested, by not being allowed to have freedom of speech. George Carlin took it to another level where he said, I'm cutting my hair no more, and I'm going to let myself say the things that are on my mind. There was a lot of anger and a lot of prophecy, and people, my mother didn't like him because he was unkempt.
Yeah.
She wanted a kempt person.
Yeah.
She would have loved you very much.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I don't know if
you're
that's
very kempt.
I'm very kempt. It's a lot of hairspray.
And she would, he's so smart and he's handsome.
All right, Saget, enough.
Let's tell you what my mother would say.
But Carlin having that moment, that's like you putting down the guitar, right? That's why I think it's interesting. When comics either get good or not, it's when you make that move. You learn something and then you kind of put it
start
away.
all over again.
Yeah.
Because you get some chops, you figure out what it's like to be in front of people. And then it's not an effort. It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
I'm going to be 62 in May, which is crazy. So if you could delay this, that would be great. Just not let it happen yet.
Yeah.
But I'm able to go on stage, and I have a gift now, having a special just done that I'm very proud of, this 0 to 60, which is from being 0 to being 60. It's a brilliant title.
That is wordy.
And it's on Amazon Prime. So my joke is, here's a joke with it, that with 2 clicks you can buy the lotion to watch the special, inferring that that's how aroused you'll get watching my special.
Yeah. You know, I retweeted your special the other day, and then I think you deleted the tweet. And I thought, what happened here? Did you make a mistake in your tweet?
I did.
Yeah.
I made a mistake in my tweet.
And then I was like, uh-oh.
Oh, will you do it again?
Let's see how the rest of this goes.
Okay. I understand if you don't want to.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
I'll show myself out. But I had put something wrong on there because it's on many mediums. It's not a Netflix special, but it's on every platform. So it's on like Spectrum, DirecTV, Google. It's never been done like this till now, where they put it on every on demand. So it's like you can choose between Wonder Woman or 0 to 60. Let me think.
Yeah.
I'd much rather watch Bob than Wonder Woman.
That's pretty cool, though, because in the old days, everyone just wanted the HBO special. I mean, I remember the day I started stand-up, I was like, I'm going to have an HBO special.
I wanted one, I got one.
But now you can have all sorts of other things.
There's many different ways.
Yeah.
And Netflix is kind of the jewel in the crown, so is HBO, but they mostly have a few new people, but mostly they're regular team members.
Yeah.
You know, Bill or George Lopez, of course, who is just wonderful. I just like George. But this has been a really cool model, and being on Amazon Prime is actually, I mean, the world has it, you know. So I just wanted it to be seen by as many people as possible.
That's how I feel about this thing. It's like, let's just get it out there.
Yeah, this is seen by everybody, I would think, right?
As long as YouTube lets it get to the feed.
And YouTube, and now, so every person that subscribes, you make money?
No.
You do make money?
If they roll ads on this, we make money. But you may
Do they roll ads on this?
It depends on what we talk about. So you may be deemed too controversial to...
I'm not controversial. I'm on Fuller House. That's on Netflix. It's a very family-oriented show.
Yeah.
What do you need to sell? What product would help you make money on this?
Well, you know, whatever they want to lay in before this. I don't care what they put in before. That's the funny thing. No one associates the ad with the content. You know
so they just want me not to say anything offensive.
So that the advertiser won't say, okay, Saget talked about whatever.
Like a fabric softener,
Because
just
then
one
they
of
think
those
the
sheets, one of those sheets. That's like a good thing.
I would love to have fabric
And
softener. I like fabric softener.
It's great stuff.
Yeah. You said to me, what a bounce you have on your jacket. When
yeah,
I
that
walked
was
in.
perfect. Perfect outfit. And we complement each other.
I feel good about this.
I think we're crushing this.
Let's talk about this Full House thing.
Hit it.
Had not heard of it until I did a little research for this.
Right.
Apparently it was a big sitcom at one time.
Yes, it was. It was for 8 years, and I didn't know either.
Yeah.
I just knew I had a place to go to work, and that I paid for kids' private school.
Yeah, so I told you this when we had dinner a couple weeks ago, but my sister she's 9 years younger than me. She was so, and I know you hear this all the time, but she was so obsessed with that show that we were never allowed to watch TV at dinner in my family. That was it. We would sit and have a good time or a bad time or argue or laugh or whatever. But my sister at some point took control of the family, and suddenly Full House was being watched during dinner.
Right.
You have to live with that.
She loves Stamos.
Yeah. Everyone loves Stamos.
Yeah, it's true.
Everyone loves Stamos. No, tell me a little bit about getting in on that and how that differed from stand-up, and then suddenly, even though you had studied acting and all that, but just like doing something that was so different.
Completely different. I'd always wanted to be on a sitcom. I'd been around them. As I said, I was a warm-up on Bosom Buddies. I would go visit Robin doing Mork and Mindy. I would sneak into Happy Days. I snuck into the Bob Newhart show.
Wow.
I was underage. You had to be 16 or 17. I snuck into Mary Tyler Moore. I would watch them filming these shows. James L. Brooks producing Mary Tyler Moore show.
Unbelievable.
And I saw Bob Newhart last night, had the name drop, wants to know when we can go to dinner. Didn't mention you. That's Don Rickles. That is a direct lift of the kind of thing he would say.
I mean, that's perfection.
Yes.
That really is comedy perfection.
Yeah, he would say something like, somebody very famous, I saw someone last night. I saw Chris Rock last night. Didn't mention you. Just to let you know.
Do you think Rickles could make it now, just because of the way we are about
he was making
correctness?
It as a new young comedian? Impossible. But there's a new way to do it, which is a way of love. And some people do it. Mm-hmm. Some people make fun of everyone. My friend Jeff Ross is the roast master general. There are ways to bash people, but it's turned mean. And what happened is, and this is an understatement, the roast, I was roasted on Comedy Central, but I had John Stamos was the roast master. I had all my friends were there. I got to pick who was on it. Most people don't, Justin Bieber roast, no one knows him, most of the people. And people think roasting people is supposed to be mean. And if it doesn't come out of kindness and love of the person, or just blind, I'm going to attack them, but there's no attachment of anger to this, it's just evil. Yeah. It's just wrong. And we are in a society where people they'll hit you back on a tweet, they'll watch something, you'll see people on the news, you'll listen to political leaders talk, you'll hear people bash each other back and forth. And it comes from Don Rickles thinking that that's what he did. Mm-hmm. And that's not what the man did. The man would just, see a man and a woman in the audience and say, "Is this your wife?" And the guy would go, "Yes," and Don would go, "Oh." And that's just, and his age had something to do with it, but also his tenacity. And he started in the lounge at 2 a.m, doing 3 shows till 5 a.m.
Yeah.
And talk about the trenches and all love. So if someone comes out and makes fun of people and does it out of love or does it out of truth, that's the safest way we're at right now. That's where the Chappelle thing comes through. That's where you look at certain people. I really enjoy Mark Maron a lot. Mm-hmm. Bill Burr. There's so many people that are so good. That some people don't even know about, that sell out places constantly, that are just like Brian Regan. It's just, he's brilliant. Here's 3 new hours. He's like, what? And it's clean. Yeah. Or you go see Seinfeld do what he does, and you go, that's why he's Jerry Seinfeld. Because it's not just wordsmith. He's connected to everything he did. It might be word for word in some ways another night, but my God, it's fun. Yeah. And then I love anybody who is funny, who just is there to entertain people, and it's not only about them, which is hard because we're a very narcissistic group.
Right. I mean, comics are a particular. There's a certain breed of craziness, right, that comes with comedy. The best line I ever heard about that was I've mentioned this a few times. George Carlin on The View, once, and he's sitting there with all the women around him, and he's talking about, you know, he was selling, or they had just come out with like this anthology, so that's what he was there for. But he said something about how to be a good comic, you have to have a ton of shit. Like, you have to have all this pain and all this angst and all this stuff. But then at some point, you got to conquer it, because otherwise it'll conquer you. And that's why so many comics die of drug overdoses and all this other stuff.
And still are dying young.
Yeah, but if you can own it, then you could be 62. And
well, I'm gonna be doing, I don't know if I'm going to be doing stand-up at 90, but I'll be doing forms of it.
Yeah.
You know?
You couldn't stop even if you wanted to, right?
I could not stop working. I just directed this movie, Benjamin, which I'll talk about at length in the third hour of our interview. But I
have to leave after hour 2, but you're welcome to.
I'm going to stay.
Yeah,
We're just going to keep going. It's just going to be me and the camera. But I love working. Without it, I'm an artist, and it sounds so Fruity Pebbles to say that, but I just am, and I always will be, and I'll be making, whether it be directing or writing or performing. I love acting. There's no limit as long as you can stand and walk and bend and remember things.
Yeah.
Not fall into an open trunk.
Right. The memory one goes first, because now there's guys on Broadway that are using
IFBs, earwigs. Yeah.
I was going to say IB. What's the Intercontinental?
IBMs. Missiles?
Yeah, not those. That's a different thing.
No, that has been known, and I hopefully will live long enough that at 92 years old, I'll be on Broadway and I'll have an earwig in, and they'll feed me the lines, and I don't care. If I'm good, if it's done right. I saw Peter O'Toole and Amanda Plummer in My Fair Lady, the most miscast version of My Fair Lady on Broadway, and I think he had a thing in his ear. He was no child when he did it, playing. That character is very fascinating, because My Fair Lady, which is a play, I don't know if people are familiar, but
sometimes the audience skews a little.
They skew a tiny bit older, but it's not a millennial's favorite. But it's Pygmalion, which of course loses more people. Gen X doesn't even follow Pygmalion.
I know.
But what's amazing about it is he's 40 years older than her. No matter how you play that play, that is a musical with Rex Harrison and Audrey Hepburn. He's 40 years older than her. He is maybe 50, but he's 60 and she's 20, and that's that. And he's trying to make her a classy woman in a chauvinistic, misogynistic, unacceptable way. And it is one of the best musicals ever written.
For people that don't know, that was the original premise that was the original inspiration of Pretty Woman, right? Am I making
that is true.
I'm not making that up, right?
No, you're not.
All right, good.
No, you're not. He's trying to make an honest woman out of an honest hooker.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about this Full House thing. So then,
right from honest hooker.
Speaking of honest hookers,
you did it.
I was going to let you drop one of the girls' names, but okay. No. So all right. So then suddenly you're on television. Everyone knows who you are.
Oh,
you're
I
doing
never
a
answered
whole
your
other thing.
question.
You're making a lot of money.
This is such a good edit point.
Yeah. No, we don't edit.
I got offered the job.
Yeah.
I was fired from a morning program on CBS, which was against Good Morning America and Today Show, for being too hot for morning TV. They had another actor play the character of Danny Tanner. I always feel bad about that.
Really? The pilot was shot with someone else?
The pilot was shot with someone else. Makes me sad, but the same producers and other people in this business have done that before with many, many shows. Robin Williams was not the first Mork. Perfect Strangers was not Mark Lynn Baker. There
was a gay housekeeper in the pilot episode of The Golden Girls. That guy got the boot.
But that's what I played on Full House anyway. But I ended up with the part because I was fired, and they made it available for me. And Jeff Franklin, the exec producer, wanted me originally for it, and Bob Boyette and Tom Miller, who still produce Fuller House. It's a complicated thing, show business. It is so complicated. All you want to do is entertain a bunch of people.
Yeah.
And then all this stuff happens. And I played a character because I wanted to be on Three Men and a Baby had just come out. We were talking about that before we were rolling on this fantastic showbiz.
We saw the Gutenberg at dinner that night.
We did see the Gutenberg, and he brings his Bible.
He didn't have the Bible with him.
And
that went over almost everyone's
He had the
head,
fish.
I got it.
He had the fish, and he had enough for everyone. And the water, guess what it turned it? So anyway, sorry. So this part was something that I wanted. And 3 Men and a Baby with Steven and Ted Danson and
Tom Selleck.
Had just come out, and so we were that. We were, Dave and John, Dave Coulier and John Stamos were already diapering Ashley and Mary Kate, and I was not in those scenes. So they reshot the pilot, and all of a sudden the show, ABC fought to keep it on. It doesn't happen like that anymore. They put it on twice a week. It ran on Tuesdays, didn't run on Fridays. And then they started to run it twice a week for a while. And then they ordered more episodes, and it wasn't doing very well, but they believed in it. And we were on against Seinfeld, which also wasn't doing very well.
Right, so that's around what, like 89, 90 now?
87, 88.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then 89 is, yes, we're not doing well. And then after 4 years, we started to do well. We switched studios from Sony, because I know people want to get their demographics right on Google Maps, to Warner Brothers to be on the same stage exactly where Fuller House is done now.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
And did the last 4 years there. And then it was a really big hit. And of course, with network television, if you look at ratings now, you go, oh my God, how could they cancel it with that share?
Insane.
And then we were offered to go to the CW or the WB, I can't remember what it was first, because it's all a blur. We were offered one more year to go there, and we just kind of said, John and I thought we did it. We kind of got canceled, so why do we want to beg to go somewhere else?
Yeah, and they do that sometimes with sitcoms, and it never works, right?
No, you're somewhere else, and then people find it. What they do it for is for syndication. So, what years is that from? Everything looks different.
Right.
Set looks smaller.
Right.
But it was, the secret to that show was that there was actual affection between the cast. And good writing and good moral things where kids could watch it. Your sister could watch it and feel good afterward.
Say hi to my sister, Talia.
Talia, you were great in Rocky. And
That's right.
That's right. Talia Shire.
There you go.
And I just, your brother loves you very, very much, and really appreciates that you would make them all watch Full House instead of have nice dinner.
That did make the dinner nicer. All right. Well, let's do just a little bit more on TV, and then I want to talk politics with you and just sort of life, because you're a philosophical guy.
I am a philosophical guy. It gets me in trouble sometimes.
So you do Fuller House.
Yes.
You're a big star. Then you're also doing America's Funniest Home Videos.
Another thing where it's a blooper show, and I'm playing on Sunday nights, 7 to 8 o'clock at night. People were in church that day. So then that night, I'm hosting a show that has to be done very palatable for America and the world. It was #1 in China.
Was that hard for you? Because you really had to ham it up, and you really had to,
It was a little difficult, and it was a gift horse. So the tree opens up. It's the #1 show. The producer, Vin DeBona, called me one day on my curly cord car phone and said, we're #1. And I said, you mean pee-pee?
Yeah.
And he went, no. He said, we're #1 show on television.
It was huge.
It was a phenomenon.
Huge.
And the joke is, if you wanted to see a man get hit in the nuts, you had to come through me. I was the gatekeeper.
But in a funny way.
And now it's all this. I mean, YouTube will give you anything you want.
That's exactly what I was going to say, that somehow all of the stuff that people click that's just quick, and you watch someone get smashed with something or hit with something or fall, it was all born out of people walking around with camcorders just because you guys were like, let's do it.
He had the savvy. It was a famous show. It came out of a show in Japan, which I think are still partners with it. I don't know the business dealings, but I'm going to look it up. Give me a minute. Let me just get on my phone.
Yeah. You want us to pause? You can walk out.
Yeah, no, I'll do it right here.
Yeah.
But it became a phenomenon because they did it amazing. They did the grassroots approach, which we don't see anywhere. Mm-hmm. They asked. In People magazine, they took out an ad. We have a new show called America's Funniest Home Videos. Full page, People magazine. Send your VHS tapes, and you could be on television. And you could win prize money.
God, it sounds like a time warp.
And that is how they got the first hour of tapes. And what happened to me was I was doing a year of Full House. I get this tape. They said, this is an amicable young man. The man that now is Walt Disney is Bob Iger. He is ABC. He wanted me for it. Ted Harbert was at the network, wanted me for it. From Full House, I seemed like a very amicable guy. They'd seen my stand-up. They didn't care. It was like, it wasn't as bluish as I became as I got more free with myself.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
It wasn't. I didn't drop as many F-bombs. But it was all weird. It all had things that you can't say.
So what was that like for you? Because it was so there. I mean, obviously, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but like it was so saccharine, the jokes you'd have to make, and
I'm proud of them.
Yeah,
I wrote it with two. The jokes were two Canadian guys, so there was an 18% exchange rate on the humor. But it was Todd Thicke's brother, may he rest in peace. No, his brother's alive. Todd Thicke, Alan Thicke's brother, and Bob Arnott, that's a writer from the Smothers Brothers show, and we wrote all the jokes. We wrote 55 pages a week. I would do the voiceovers. Look out! Oh, look at me! This bad Mel Blanc, who was Warner Brothers Bugs Bunny. I have to explain it to the millennial
We'll
camera.
have to do who's Bugs Bunny thing after this.
Okay, who is Bugs Bunny? Yeah. But who is Marvin the Martian?
Yeah, all of
You
it.
make me so mad. Marvin the Martian. Not a good impression, but it was a big production too. I wanted it to be a variety show, so we would have big guests on. We'd have on Rodney Dangerfield, anybody that was a friend of mine. We'd had Leslie Nielsen on, Jonathan Winters, cast of Full House. We'd have, and it was an hour, and it is still on to this day a testament to Vin and to the people that make that show. It went through Tom Bergeron, went through many people. It went through Richard Kind hosted it once, Daisy Fuentes, John Fugelsang.
Yeah.
And there was no way to stop it because it was a guaranteed laugh. And what I didn't like, what would bother me, is if a guy falls in a manhole and then you see somebody in the audience throw their head back laughing, but you never see him climb out of the manhole. I'm like, is he dead?
Right.
So
you should have done a charity for people's nuts. Like, wouldn't that have been it? Like the Bob Saget charity for
that would have been a great idea.
Or something?
Yeah, Saget's agates. Something that would have, because there should have been there were a lot of nut hits. And it was always, the good ones were when it was a 6-year-old taking a baseball bat and just jabbing his dad.
Yeah. Even just before this, I just quickly put America's Funniest Home Videos in the YouTube search. Right. And it's just nut hit after nut hit. There's one that's like 600 nut hits in a row. I mean, they just cut them real quick.
Well, one thing that got to me was someone had sent me a clip reel that I think they aired on the show, which was old people falling. And that's when I was like, I'm glad I'm not there. Because that was the only time I went like, oh, come on. And they're falling on cement and stuff, which sounds funny to bros in a bar drinking beers. But if you watch it, it's kind of snuffish. But as long as I know everybody's okay, I didn't want to be a place where people filmed themselves hurting their friends. And so I felt like I was hurting people.
Right.
But that didn't matter. I enjoyed, those first few years of doing it, I loved the hell out of it. I mean, everybody was talking about it and loving it. I had friends calling me going, what is this?
Yeah.
Because no one had seen it before.
But it's interesting because it's like kind of one of those things that we don't have anymore. Like we don't have shows.
But we need variety.
There are things like, yes, everyone watches Game of Thrones or everyone watches this or that on Netflix. But we don't have like sort of mainstream, like decent things that families can watch anymore. That put all the nonsense aside,
And that's what I want to do. That's kind of, and I'm in talks about a couple different things.
Nice.
I want to do something variety. I don't know what it is. I love directing, so I just did this movie. So we knock on wood, people go see this movie, Benjamin, which we'll get to it for a second, right?
Let's get to it right now.
If you want.
I feel that was the right way.
But I will give closure to that last thing, just saying that I do feel that it would be wonderful to have a family sit down on a Sunday night. I mean, Wonderful World of Disney used to be on at 7 o'clock or 7:30 when I was a kid on NBC.
Yeah.
And you turn it on now and it's just another one of those people punching each other in big sumo wrestler costumes.
Yeah.
And that's not what I want to see with my family. I want to see, that's
also
the cheap replacement. And that's variety.
Yeah.
That's reality variety. But real variety is, we're going to entertain you, and we're going to bring out guests, and it's going to be fun. I mean, I guess SNL is the closest thing you have.
Yeah, but that's not really.
It wouldn't play in prime time, but you want something.
You want something that's funny, but also you can do some serious stuff. You want something relevant. I mean, It can
have everything. But I think it needs to make people laugh the most, and then it can have its waves in it.
Yeah.
And so we'll be taking pitches right after this.
All right, let's talk Benjamin, and then
Benjamin comes out in the summer. It is a movie that I've spent 7 years on.
Jeez.
It is an independent movie, very low budget.
People just getting hit in the nuts?
No one gets it. There is a fight in it.
At least.
I can't tell you who. Me and Dave Foley. I won't talk. I don't want no spoiler alerts. It's really about a dysfunctional family, which is most families. And we believe that I directed it and I acted in it with some amazing people that I'll name really quickly, which are Rob Corddry, who's hilarious, Kevin Pollak, Sherry O'Terry, Dave Foley. Max Burkholder plays my son. He was on Parenthood. We think that he is on crystal meth. So it's a dark comedy. And
I thought you meant the actor.
No, not the actor.
This is what the movie's about.
Movie's about.
Sorry, I was pouring my water.
He plays Benjamin. Sorry. We believe all the actors in the movie were on
meth. I don't know what you're doing.
All the actors in the movie were on crystal meth during the making of the movie in order to be able to survive working with me. Because I was out of my mind because we had a 15-day shoot. It was a low budget thing.
Wow, jeez.
Yeah, I know. This show has longer to shoot than my movie. And so in the movie, my son Benjamin, we believe, is on crystal meth, and so Mary Lynn Rice Cub plays my girlfriend. She's from 24, very good comedian actress, and she posts on Facebook that we need an intervention for the boy, and that's not where you post an intervention. People don't post interventions on Facebook. It's supposed to be kind of quiet and done properly. Maybe a note, post it. And so Rob Corddry is our family gynecologist. He leads the intervention, and Kevin Pollak plays my brother, and Perry Gilpin's in it, and Claire Mamet. Got to have a Mamet. She's so good at it. And David Hull and Johnny Weston, and it's an ensemble, and it takes place in one night, and it's just basically the one line would be on it that the person you think has the problem. It's the people, and I can't really give my own line.
I wouldn't
for my
say
movie.
much more than
it's
that.
The
what
family.
Are you doing here?
The family. Your family is the one with the problem. You know, people. Somebody write a one line for this movie, quick.
Yeah.
We need it for the one sheet. But the people that you think have the problem, the people that are accusing someone of having the problem are the ones with the problem. Oh, that's a spoiler alert.
That's a little bit of a spoiler, but I feel like that transcends this movie. That's just a general thing these days.
It's a serious movie with a comedy bent to it, and I'm very proud of it.
Yeah.
And so it'll. Thank you for letting me plug-ola that.
All right, Saget. We did Career. That was it.
We did. My career's over.
That was your anthology.
And my career's just beginning.
We literally ended your career. Right?
You ended my career completely. It ended. We never got past Fuller House. It's over. No, we did Benjamin. We're good.
Yeah, we did Benjamin. We
got other stuff coming.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about Half Baked, but we'll just we'll shelve that one.
We'll just say that I never actually did that in real life. My line.
Oh, yeah, never did the real line. Yeah,
no.
Got it. Okay. All right, let's talk. I just want to talk about politics and just kind of what you think is going on in the world because
that's what you do here.
That is what I do here. But even though I only know you a little bit from the conversation we had at dinner, I just got a sense that like you're obviously very sensitive. Like that's pretty clear.
I'm overly sensitive.
You strike me as like a good liberal. Like you want people to be treated well and fair.
I never think of myself as a liberal, but I must be.
Well, what do you think of yourself
I look at myself as a humanist. I was on a plane the other day, which no comedian's ever said. And
True story.
A gentleman was on the plane, and he was about 60 years old, and he seemed like a successful businessman of some kind. And I was in the first class section because there was a cat back in coach. It was a cat for in case you get sick. She had her security animal to keep her. What do you call those animals?
The special animal for crazy people.
Special needs animal or whatever. But I'm deathly allergic, so I was up front.
I'm allergic to cats too.
Same thing. So I was saying to this gentleman, and he had a big, bright red America First shirt, and so if I was what you'd brand as a liberal, I guess that shirt would bother me. But I just looked at the guy, and he seemed like a nice guy. I just said, "Do you have an allergy to cats?" He went, "No, my wife's got a cat." I said, "So you have a cat?" He goes, "No, my wife has a cat." And we laughed a little bit. And what it said on his shirt isn't a shirt I would wear. It's not where I'm at. I mean, I do believe I love America.
It's pretty good here, right?
I believe that where you live, you want to put first. You want to take care of your people. You want to take care of your hometown.
Uh-oh, you're coming out with that far-right craziness right now.
You want to take care of your country.
Uh-oh.
But down. But I'm not. If you're kind, and you're not out doing some closet hatred, or blatant hatred, I don't know. But I just look at my dad's whole thing was be kind to people. So it sounds like a pacifist and might bother people, but that's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah. Is the problem with that you just get nipped off by both sides? I mean, I see that a lot now, that I do think there's this interesting center developing.
But I don't even know why there's sides. I mean, of course I do. Of course I do.
Yeah.
But, and people go, well, you're a Democrat, right? And I'm like, I'll vote for anybody that can get us out of this mess. I'd bring my dad back from the grave and vote for him. He'd be such a good candidate. It would look like a Grateful Dead video.
Yeah?
I don't know.
Well,
where are you? Would you consider yourself a liberal? Is that where you are?
Yeah, I still consider myself a liberal, but most of the liberal things that I believe in, I can pretty much explain from a libertarian perspective at this point.
Right.
In that I just don't want the government involved in my life. That's it. And I think you should live your life however you see fit, and I'll live mine however I see fit. And you have a lot more money than me, right? Fair to say?
I don't know, but we're going to do spreadsheet exams right after this is over.
Let's be clear. I'm on YouTube. You've been on network television.
When you've got 3 chickens outside. I don't have 3 chickens. I don't know their value.
Yeah, but you could have chickens. The point is, I don't deserve any of your stuff. Just because you make more money than me, right? I can't have any of your money. It would be nice, I suppose, but I don't deserve any of it.
But that's what taxes are about, and that's where our incredibly rich society and our incredibly poor society are at odds with each other, and that has been since the beginning of time. Since, castles were built with a dictator and a king living in it, and everybody had to go build all this stuff, and they were slaves. So, I mean, the metaphor doesn't change. The representation doesn't change, that the downtrodden are downtrodden and are disgruntled, and then other people are angry at things that they should just take a frickin' chill pill over.
Yeah. Well, that constant outrage thing.
Well, there's a lot to be outraged over also, because
how do you gauge
all the problem with wanting to entertain people, with wanting to be a comedian, is it's nearly impossible when there's so many deaths, when there's so many tragic things happening, which there always have been. But we are at a news ratio where it's coming at us. You just, you hit your computer on and it says, news alert, and you hit news alert and you're like, you're afraid to hit the button. You're afraid to get up in the morning and hit whatever news service you go to.
So that's just a matter of us knowing about it more, because I have Steven Pinker on next week, who's a Harvard psychologist, and his whole argument is actually that things are better than they've ever been, using empirical scientific evidence about the amount of people that are killed.
Because it's being exposed quicker?
Well, because we actually have more people out of poverty now worldwide than ever before. More people with drinkable water than ever before. More people that live in societies with enlightenment values than ever before. But we see...
More people with drinkable water?
Yeah, more...
But not around the world.
No, around the world, more now than ever before.
Well, that might be true.
All right, we're gonna have to fully
are we 100% that's true?
I'm pretty sure that's true.
But what about more people being murdered? What about the safety of our kids? What about, all these things over guns?
But most of those markers, actually, they're better than ever before. It's just that we hear about them all the time now,
right?
And we obsess over them. Not to say that
we
don't have
obsess
problems.
over the negative, because we're not presented the positive. And if we're presented the positive, it's through a skewed broadcast. It's not really presented by someone that comforts you. This show comforts you more than most shows because of the way you handle it. That's just a fact. I've watched you several times. You're trying to put two factions together that might have similar or opposed views, discussing opposed views, and are saying, why can't it be like this? Because if you try to go toward an idealistic goal, the dream of it is how you can almost get there. That's how the country was founded, besides, taking a lot of things away from the people that lived here.
That's a whole other show.
But you've got 3 cocks in your yard.
Pretty good. So
I'm just trying to get you out of this now. But I mean, I'm not really politically astute, but did I make any sense?
Yeah. Well, you are making some sense, but I think you actually are politically. I mean, you're around Maher all the time. That must be.
I saw him just last night, and he said aloha because we were in Hawaii together.
Yeah.
But I do say that I'd rather get my news from John Oliver and Bill Maher and Stephen Colbert and Seth Meyers and Jimmy Kimmel than the newscasters.
What does that tell you about just media?
We need a relief, and so the news itself is already a parody, and it's also so obsessive, no matter where it's coming from, and we're also dealing with a regime which flip-flops in the media and on Twitter faster than it's ever existed, because we never had a president tweet us. We did. I mean, Obama did, but it wasn't like, I hate this, I love this. 1821. 21, 18. It's like you're in Vegas. Yeah. Just double down.
Do you see him as the problem though, or as a symptom? Because I really see him. Well, I think I see him as the symptom.
He is a symptom. It was voting for a guy that was on a show that said you're fired. So what do you expect to get? If you're gonna get the host of America's Got Talent, you're gonna get the most out of people.
Right. That's
this is gonna be the best procession ever. It's gonna be dancers and singers and.
Yeah. If you had been the president, people would be getting nuts all the time.
Dick jokes. You would. From me, I guarantee you a dick joke a day. And I would tweet them, and not 3 a.m. I do not tweet well at 3 a.m. No one should.
No one should.
Except the president, because. But I just think, what did we expect? But I think a lot of people were surprised, and I think it doesn't matter. It's happening, and this is it. And so we want a better humanity, and there are great people in the world, and there are great people in other countries leading the world the best they can, and there's a lot of slackers, and there's other people that are just part of the political bunch of crap. But there's still great people, and there's great people watching this. There's nice people watching your show.
Yeah.
You're a nice person, nice people. I don't think you get a lot of haters. Do you get?
Oh, I have a ridiculous amount of haters.
You do?
Yeah, because I talk about the problems that I see with the modern day left and the liberals, and they don't like someone to address those things that was once one of them.
But so you've got this great fake manner. Yeah. Why can't they don't fall? They don't fall for that. You're like a perfect shrink.
Come on.
You could calm me down through tightrope walking.
That was because we slipped a little something in your water.
There is something in my water. I'm feeling different.
Yes. Notice the tone has changed.
I'm not leaving. I'm on the show tomorrow.
Are the walls vibrating yet?
Oh yeah, everything's moved in.
Yeah. Is there anyone that?
There's an eye chart behind you. You know that. It says Los Angeles, but it's an eye chart.
Pretty clever, huh?
Yeah.
That's art.
Brilliant.
We call that art, Saget.
Well done, Mr. Bond.
Pretty good. Is there anyone that you're paying attention to these days that you think is making some sense? Because I appreciate all the comments, but the compliments, but like, that's what I think I'm doing here, is just trying to make a little sense of some things.
To be honest, John Oliver has been, I can't think of anyone political that has made me go, well, there's a great hope there. Mm-hmm. And I'm interested in something some people have to say that seem, wow, that was noble, but they're not going to do anything about it, or they're not going to run, but I'd like to think there's someone out there. I'd like to think.
You think that's part of it, that we all talk a lot, but we don't do? I sense that's sort of what's happening here also, is that everyone's saying shit all the time.
That's all it is.
We're fighting all the time.
Oh, it's just a bunch of fucking voices. It's frequencies everywhere.
Yeah.
Going all through our heads. It's just noise.
So Trump was like, all right, I'm going to do it. None of you do anything. And Trump's like, all right, I'll do it. I'll run for president, you morons.
And guess what? He was right.
Yeah.
And the way he does it, he can turn anything he wants into a rally if he feels the moment, and he gets the right South Park background behind him. Yay! But he's doing it, and I don't know. I just don't know anything. You can't predict a thing, and we want that. Security is feeling secure that you know at least what tomorrow brings. We don't know what an hour from now brings. We have never been on our haunches more, not knowing what's going to come out of him, out of the White House, who's going to get fired. But that's not the issue. The issue is, where's the world at? And where's our kids at? And where are the things that really matter? What really matters is people.
This is sort of like you're giving me the ending of a Full House episode.
And I want to tell you something else. Honey, I don't want you drinking beer at the prom, and you cannot have a horse in the living room. This is where the synthesizer music comes in.
Yeah.
And you know what? Always follow your gut. Because your gut's not wrong. If you feel it deep inside, then take Imodium, because any moment there could be a release. I wish I could have done Full House like that.
That would have been nice.
Just full of diarrhea.
They didn't give you a chance for bloopers like that where you could just...
Oh, they're bloopers.
Yeah, no, I know there's bloopers.
There were gag reels that I said horrific things.
Yeah.
I wrote a book called Dirty Daddy, and I talked about something I did on the set once, and I got in a lot of trouble. I won't say what it is because it's not repeatable on this YouTube channel, but it is in that book, and it was something I should not have done with a well, I can't say it, but it was something that happened.
You did something, okay.
I did something. We had stand-ins for the kids that were mannequins. And I was alone on the set with just the crew. And the monitors were on, and I didn't know that. Not acceptable under these conditions.
No.
Or under this time.
Do you ever worry about that? Because you still, I mean...
No, because everything I've done is just there.
It's all out there.
It's all out. Yeah. When someone goes, oh, someone's going to come forward. When's your big bad thing going to come out? I don't know. Look at my last special. Yeah. You want it? It's right there.
In a weird way, it's like your saving grace, sort of. Like
I am a confessional.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a story in 0 to 60, the special, where I say I was given lewds by a club owner, which were serious drug. It was almost like a roofie, terrible drug, from Wolf of Wall Street, Jonah Hill and Leo DiCaprio, and a club owner told me to give it to a waitress, and I could have my way with her. And instead, to cut to the chase and ruin a joke, I actually took it myself to knock myself out. So, because she was kind of hitting on me, because I did it because that's the kind of guy I am. So all my stuff's out there because I didn't do anything diabolical that I can recall.
Well, you were roofying yourself, right?
Can you? Yes.
Yeah.
Can you add that I can recall to every single thing I said on this entire interview?
That's what politicians do.
Okay, so I'm going to come in and I'm going to voice over this entire interview. Just that I can recall.
Yeah. I feel we should end this either with something hitting you in the nuts.
Or a song.
Or we could do a song, but you already gave me the nice Full House ending.
What do you think is you are the one here with the brain. Tell me what you think is the hope of
the hope is this.
How we can
That's
get
the hope.
Is communication.
That this is happening now, that people are doing this. That, you know what I mean?
The discourse.
Your fiance Kelly came across me. We traded a couple messages on Twitter. I was like, oh, she gets it. Like, she's trying to find some answers. I'm trying to find some answers.
And
we went out for dinner. We all became friends immediately.
Yeah.
And that whatever differences that we may have, where, you're probably still a little more left than I am on some things, or it just doesn't even matter.
Am I?
I think on some things probably you're probably a little more, I don't know. It doesn't even, it's irrelevant.
I dress left. I don't know if that counts.
It just doesn't even matter. But the point is that the reason that shows like this are working is because of this. That you were willing to come here, sit down.
I wanted to come here.
Yeah. You immediately said to me that you wanted to come, but that's the point. It's like people want this now. They are so tired of the other thing, and all we're doing is exactly what Tom Snyder did, and he was just talking to a camera, but or what Carson
he had a guest,
or what William F. Buckley, or any of these people who said, let's try to find some answers. And you can get, I think, as many answers from Bob Saget as you can from the guys. I think you get far more answers from listening to someone like you who has some life experience and that cares than you can virtually listening to CNN all day long.
Well, you can get what we never got into, which I don't want to get into, which is all the death that I had in my family. So much death of friends. I just lost someone today. I think it's on bad.
We can go there.
On bad luck. Well, all I was going to say was that's what centers everybody, because the things we all go through are birth and death, and they all happen differently. And when they happen at an unfortunate age, like I lost two sisters at 34 and 47, that's what centers you. Yeah. That's bigger than everything, is the loss of life. And when people die, when young people die, there's nothing more. That's all that matters. Yeah. The rest of it is your belief. This is that. This is that. It's, yes, you want to solve in a civilization how to keep people alive, but the empathy is what's missing. And just quickly to touch on what we didn't touch on, but we talked about before the show started.
Keep going.
Okay.
I'm with you.
The talk shows that exist at night, the chat shows, as they call them in England. When I would do Johnny Carson's show, and before him was Jack Parr, who I got to meet, and before him was Steve Allen, who I got to meet, and these are guys that they all had the Tonight Show, those gentlemen, and then Johnny ended up with it. That was viewed, how they would tell their guests, you're coming to a cocktail party. Mm-hmm. How do I dress? Like a cocktail party. How do I talk? You're at a cocktail party. You're in Johnny's living room, and he's sharing that living room with everybody. Well, why does he have a desk in his living room? Because he wants a desk. He wants a place for his ashtray. He smokes. Maybe he's got a drink there or whatever.
That's hard to believe, even that they used to do that. I mean, there's old black and white ones. They're smoking, they're drinking, Burt Reynolds is wasted. I mean, it's amazing.
And it's not what we want. We don't want to see it, although sometimes we do. Mm-hmm. We see some strange things that happen. I mean, Letterman certainly had some, Joaquin Phoenix moments, those kind of things. We're still going to see more stuff like that. People are going to do whatever trippy stuff they're doing. But the truth of it is, those late night shows are supposed to be entertainment. That's what they're supposed to be. They've become a bit of let's attack everything today that we've been through, because look what happened today, because it's been getting ratings. And people that necessarily might not do political comedy, like James Corden, he's an entertainment-oriented man. He's a very talented man from Broadway. He does carpool karaoke. But he comes out and does a 7-minute monologue that might have a bunch of stuff in it about the White House. But he's not born to do that, but that's what's feeding the beast. Yeah. But it's supposed to be a time where you chill at the end of the day, where you're entertained, where you relax. And when you want to get that Tom Snyder, when you want to get that, dare I say the name in a sentence, Charlie Rose, because that's what he did. He did a one-on-one. Mm-hmm. But when you say a name like that, it can't help but cause someone to recoil. Because
let's say Larry King, for my purposes.
Larry King, I've known forever, and I adore.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Larry King, I'm supposed to have dinner with him. Kelly and I are supposed to go with him and Shauna out for dinner.
We can go to that place if you invite
Sean.
me. That place that we went.
That place that we don't talk about.
Yeah, but he does like that place.
He is quite a character. I went on Larry King's show, he read my book, and every time he sees me, he goes, I loved your book, Saget. And I don't think it's because he forgot that he keeps telling me. But I've just known him a long time. Yeah. And he was very, very good at it, and we have some really good people doing the news. There's some real good people out there. I mean, Lawrence O'Donnell's a friend of mine. I like him a lot. That name right there might flag people.
Yeah,
because
it will.
It's MSNBC. Yeah. And too many consonants. We hate it. But I don't know. I just see we need to be entertained. It's really complicated to do it at this time in a way without bringing up human issues, moral issues. And I'm going to do the best I can to do that.
It's funny. I remember, so I was never, even though I think you know him personally, I was never a fan of Leno on The Tonight Show. I loved Carson, even though it was my kind of very early years. But Leno, to me, I always liked the Bill Hicks thing more. And, they had that rival. And I liked that sort of more raw comedy. And Leno, to me, was like, he was just the corporate version. So I never liked it. But in an odd way, I suddenly have this bizarre respect for him now.
Well,
Because
he was a comedian hosting The Tonight Show.
Yeah.
But
I mean that he wasn't overtly political all the time.
No.
Where now it's always political, and I almost miss that in a way, even though he wasn't really my guy in terms of comedy. But I know everyone says he's an incredible stand-up, which has nothing to do with
he's
the
a great
Tonight Show.
stand-up. I was an intern on the Mike Douglas show.
Wow.
In Philadelphia at 18 years old, and I was on his very first television appearance.
Wow.
So I know Jay that long, and so there's a interesting history. And then, Johnny Carson, David Letterman, Conan, those were guys that I would go on those shows, and I felt the most connection. But Jay, I would go on and promote a movie I'd worked on, that I directed, that I worked so hard, and he couldn't have been more gracious, So,
yeah, I don't even mean that as a
Jimmy
knock to
Kimmel
him,
is
actually.
one of the sweetest people alive that does this, and Colbert is great. I mean, it's an interesting time for media and for broadcasting. I just want to see us get into some kind of place of peace of mind in the world, and we're not there.
That's a big lift, man. I mean, that's right. Like, that's why I'm doing this. That's why you want to, I think, do this variety
I've
show
never
that
wanted
you're
to
talking-
I've never wanted to perform more. I'm more motivated to go do stand-up. I've booked these stand-up. I'm on tour, trying to come up with new stuff, because you do a special and you deplete it, but you don't want to just give them something they just bought or heard. But people really need it, and I need to do it, because it takes people out of it and brings them into their life. You
think comics are like the last sense makers these days? There's a couple others that I can think
There's
of.
There's a few comedians that I would rather watch than almost anybody. There's some good motivational speakers. There's some good clergy out there. I'm not a subscriber that much. I'm a comedian, so I kind of listen to the people that have a lot to say, and some of them really do have a lot to say. So I respect people with a point of view that aren't malicious. That would be you.
Did we do it all here?
I think pretty much, unless you got to walk, you want to make some vegetables.
I do have a great walk in there.
I knew you had a walk.
Give me one disaster story. One just nightmare. I was telling you before about my thing when I was on at the RNC convention and I was sweating like crazy, and Larry King said, "You're sweating more like Albert Brooks in Broadcast News."
I was on stage.
Take us out with a disaster, Saget.
A disaster of stand-up?
Of anything. Give me some life. Well, I guess give me a professional, not a life disaster.
I gave you a life disaster.
All right, how about one life disaster?
Name dropping life disaster.
Yeah.
I'm on an airplane on American on a 747. I'm on the video show, which is #1 at the time, so you can then list famous people on the plane in the newspaper by who's the most famous and how they're listed in the newspaper. But I was on a plane with David Bowie and Iman and Greg Kinnear and Richard Lewis.
Where was this?
And this was an American flight out of JFK to LA.
That's hilarious.
And also Mark McEwen, who was on the CBS Morning News and a friend of mine. And so the plane starts taking off. This would never exist today. As we're taking off in the air, we hear an explosion, and one of the engines apparently blows out. The plane goes rickety. We then land at JFK. This is a very long time ago. And we find out, first they take the VIPs, which is the people I named, on 2 carts, and Richard Lewis is yelling next to David Bowie, "Only a couple of us are Jews." I'm like, this is do not do this. So now we're in the club, and I'm getting to talk to David Bowie. So I'm going, okay, this was worth an explosion. I'm fine. And who could not have been more gracious, and it was just it was dangerous and upsetting. 2 hours go by, they put us back on the same plane. Turns out it was a fuel hose that came loose, which is just like turning a screw on a gasket on your lawnmower. And they fixed it, which would never happen now. They would get you a new plane or cancel you completely or whatever.
Right.
And we then took off, and I made some joke. I think the movie Outbreak had just come out. And I said something like, there was a monkey caught in the engine. And then Richard Lewis yells out, "That's a good one, Bob. Iman is from Zaire." And so I'm called out, and then as we take off, Richard Lewis yells, "Thanks, Bob," to the whole plane. And at that time, you can go into the cockpit. This is pre-prior 9/11, and I was able to ask the pilots what happened. So I actually told the VIPs, no one else, what happened.
Well, you shouldn't have.
They didn't tell the other people. So that's a true disaster story. I mean, that could have ended incredibly badly, and I would have been fourth. I would put.
Did you ever settle that with Lewis? Because we could get him here and we could do it. I'm trying to moderate some discussion.
I saw him last night, and he and I are gonna. He holds me by the face and hugs me, and we're gonna figure out the list. But he's gonna tell me that I would have gone ahead of him simply because of that dumb video show. But he would say dumb video show in order to do it, because that was probably 1988, 89.
You know, it's one of the nicest moments I've had on this, when I had Richard Lewis on and he left. And, you know, he's kind of a germaphobe, as Larry and all these guys are. And, you know, he doesn't shake hands, he does this. But as he said goodbye to me, I walked him out. And when I opened up the door, he just he said something like, "You're great." And he touched me on the cheek. And I was like, melted. I was like,
he does this rabbinical thing.
Is that what that is?
It's a neurotic rabbinical thing that I think he learned from his shrink.
I'm sure he learned it from his shrink.
The other story, which is a very simple one, very, very short story. I was in San Francisco performing stand-up. I learned that be careful what you do messing with a heckler. A guy who was about 8 feet tall got up on stage and got me in a headlock.
Holy shit.
And wouldn't let go of me and had me and was hurting my neck badly. No security. Nobody there.
The whole days.
And I took the microphone and I shoved it up his ass. And he got so paranoid that I had done that he ran away. I don't know why. All I know is I don't know if he had a homophobic, frightened moment or thought maybe that I was going to go further in, or maybe that he would have farted and I would have picked it up on the mic. But in any case, that is scary when you are out there with the people. Now, young girls will just flash me their boobs and go, "Danny Tanner," you know, like that. But I've had a few things like that happen where people have had to, security has had to throw people out. You get all kinds of stuff like that. That won't happen to you in Irvine at the Improv.
I hope not.
You've got a hell of a stand-up career happening because you have something. So you say content and then you have jokes. You're gonna talk philosophically like you do on here about life, and then you button it with something humorous, or you feather it throughout with jokes.
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about this a little bit, but there's two ways sort of that you could do this. So there's the Seinfeld way, which is like that perfect tactician, laid out every pause, every inflection point. I can never do it that way. I don't think that's exactly how you do it either.
No.
But then there's sort of the Gary Shandling way, which was, there's that great moment in the documentary Comedian where Jerry shows him his papers and it looks, Hitler wrote it because it's like so perfect. And then you have Gary Shandling who pulls out this crumbled piece of paper.
It's unbelievable.
That's much closer to what I am. I have some ideas, and I was on a beach last week in Florida, and I wrote out the hour. And some of it is stuff that I've done through the years that I've just updated, but it's all based in what I'm doing here. And I'm trying to just be true. I'm just trying to be true.
And it's going to be great.
Yeah. And the other
and
stuff,
then you're hooked.
I know.
Then welcome to the next 30 years. And it'll infiltrate this, and might not only be stand-up, but it's an interesting thing to do, to be able to go, "Hey, I'm going to do Vegas 3 times this year," and people come to see me, and it's kind of fun. And
can I get on the jet with you and Maher? You know what? If I rock it for the next year, that'll be my goal.
You saw the picture.
I saw the picture.
Yeah. You don't want to be on that particular. You don't want to be in that one. That was a fun trip. That was a fun.
Yeah.
Fun
Is that just the two? You guys do that every year, you and Maher?
I've never done it with him before. He usually has Eddie Vedder do it, who comes in, and we had him on tape. And we had Reggie Brown, who did his Obama impression that he's done on Real Time before. And then he always has different people. He gets different comedians to come out and do it with him. And he asked me to do it because he wanted to have some fun. And we've always liked each other. I mean, we've known each other since we're 23. We all started together. I took Jerry Seinfeld to Disneyland.
Jesus.
And Gary Shandling and George Wallace, and it was the opening of Thunder Mountain Railroad. And I'll leave you with this, because I've left you with 9 other endpoints.
I kind of want to keep going now, too. Got a couple of things
end.
here.
But there was a goat with dynamite on Have you ever been on Thunder Mountain Railroad?
I know it, but I'm not. Well, does it still exist anymore?
Oh, it's very popular.
Yeah.
So there's a goat with dynamite, a robot, not much of a robot, but it's a does that
animatronic thing.
Exactly with a dynamite, and you hear it. And all I did, we're 23 years old. Jerry's a few months older than me, I think. I went, Jerry, oh my God, a goat with dynamite. And what Jerry always did was just lay out the obvious. Oh my gosh, a glass with a stain. And that's not a joke, or I'm not him, because he's brilliant.
There's no stain.
There's nothing, a clean glass.
Yeah.
But he, to this day, I could say, oh my God, a goat with dynamite, and he will laugh, because it's when you know somebody and you just get them, And I saw a bunch of comics last night. I saw Paul Reiser, and it was Billy Crystal's birthday, and it's just nice seeing all these people that I knew.
Well, that's why it's so magical, that time, right? Like, you came up in a time that, to me, and for anyone that appreciates comedy, it's like, holy shit, all of these guys.
And then you realize there weren't that many. You go like, oh, there were thousands of comedians. No, there weren't. There were hundreds. And a lot of them are gone. And then there's, I'm at that 2/3 point. I'd like to think my middle chapter. That means I have to live to 122.
Well, with all the medications these days.
I think it's possible.
I think anything's possible.
Motorized unicycle up my butt with no seat.
That seems excessive, but whatever works for you.
We lost Stephen Hawking. Just wanted to end on that.
Wait, you mentioned George Wallace. George Wallace. His HBO special, which I think maybe he only had one, which is a real disservice, although he's had many other specials, to me might be the funniest half hour.
There is something about him, and he was always a friend of mine, always a friend of Jerry's.
Yeah.
He's just a funny guy. And he would mess with me. One time, he was opening for Tom Jones a lot on the road, and I lived in Hollywood on Camino Palmero. And he went out of town, but I forgot that he went out of town. And we were buddies. And he said, he called me up. He said, Saget, make me chicken. I said, okay. I had no life. I was waiting for the Comedy Store that night. I was 24. Okay, I'll make you chicken. What do you want? Just Southern fried in an oven, okay? Sure. Just make me chicken. I'll be over in a couple hours. So I make him chicken. Make a whole bunch of chicken. This is really pathetic.
This is already very politically incorrect.
No, this is so pathetic. Yeah. And then he doesn't come over. And now I'm getting worried. William Holden had just died. And so I'm like scared that George died in his condo. This shows you how I have grown as a human. I called his landlord, and I got a hold of the building, and he said, George is in Tahoe. He's opening for Tom Jones. So I called the hotel, and I said, George, what did you do? He said, you fucking idiot. I told you I was opening for Tom Jones. Why'd you make me chicken? I said, I'm freezing it, and you're going to eat it, damn it. So that's the end of that story.
Did George Wallace ever eat your chicken?
No. I ate it. It was pretty good.
On that note, Saget.
I haven't made chicken since, until I came to your house, and I saw your chicken.
I saw the way you were eyeballing the
one on the left.
You can have an egg. You can't have the chicken.
Okay. Can I have an egg?
Yeah, you can leave this house with an egg. I'm going to give you a farm fresh egg. You know how happy that
do I cook it?
You know how happy that'll make my sister, Bob Saget. Danny Tanner's walking out of my house with a farm fresh egg.
But can I eat it?
Yeah.
This is the best.
You know what? I will cook it. You know what? David's the chef around here. Do you want literally the best sunny side up egg you've ever had? All right. We are ending this show. This really has been a pleasure. Like, it's so nice when you meet somebody who you know.
Same.
Who you know but you don't know, and then you realize that you know them. Something like that.
That's the point, I think, of what we're supposed to do as people. We get to do this, and we would do this at dinner. This is almost like this, except we would move more.
We did.
I didn't move very much. I was like, Captain Pike a little bit.
Yeah. All right. I suspect we'll do this over dinner again, and we'll do it here again. And thanks.
Wow, I think you got enough to air this for 3 years.
This is the longest show. This is actually my retirement show now.
How long was this?
About 6 hours.
That's fantastic.
No, really, this was beyond.
We went into mountain time.
For more on that man, Bob Saget, check out his special 0 to 60 on Amazon, and we've got the link right down below.